Three high school bullies corner the honors student in the courtyard, deliberately tipping his wheelchair and sending him crashing to the concrete. The punks laugh as they destroy his laptop and scatter his science project across the pavement, while other students walk by without helping. But the quiet janitor who witnessed everything isn't just another school employee. This is Jackie Chan himself. The bullies have no idea they just assaulted a disabled kid in front of a martial arts master who spent decades perfecting the art of creative justice. While the wheelchair-bound student struggles to collect his ruined work, the legendary fighter approaches with that trademark calm that's terrified movie villains for generations. The lead bully thinks he's untouchable because his daddy runs the school board, but he's about to learn why some legends never retire. The crew keeps walking away, thinking they've won another easy victory, but they're actually counting down to the most humiliating lesson of their lives. What happens when high school bullies pick on the wrong student? Will the punks survive discovering why wheelchair-bound doesn't mean defenseless when Jackie Chan becomes your protector? What happened next would terrorize the bullies for the rest of their pathetic existence. Before we jump back and tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Danny Martinez's alarm pierced the pre-dawn silence at 6:30 a.m., jolting him from dreams where his legs worked perfectly and bullies didn't exist. The 16-year-old's bedroom walls showcased a shrine to scientific achievement, framed certificates from math competitions, a poster of Stephen Hawking gazing thoughtfully at the cosmos, and sketches of adaptive devices that existed only in Danny's brilliant imagination. His morning routine had evolved into a practiced ballet of efficiency. Transfer from bed to wheelchair, check the brake, pivot, settle. Danny's lean frame moved with the fluid grace of someone who'd mastered these motions through years of necessity. His thick black hair stuck up at odd angles, and he ran calloused fingers through it while surveying his kingdom of organized chaos. The modest apartment bore the hallmarks of Rosa Martinez's double shifts at the hospital, yesterday's scrubs. Draped over a chair, a half-empty coffee cup forgotten on the kitchen counter, a note scrawled in her careful handwriting. Mijo, leftover lasagna in fridge. Love you to the moon. Mama. She'd left hours ago for the early shift, her sacrifice funding Danny's dreams one exhausting day at a time. Danny prepared his breakfast with methodical precision, reviewing physics formulas between bites of toast. His backpack bulged with carefully organized supplies, color-coded folders, spare batteries for his calculator, and the battered notebook containing his revolutionary ideas about neural interface technology. Each item had its place, just like the rigid schedule that governed his days. The October morning bit at his face as he navigated the cracked sidewalks toward Lincoln High. His hands, scarred from years of gripping wheelchair rims, worked steadily against the slight uphill grade. Other students streamed past in their parents' cars, but Danny preferred the independence of his own power, even when it meant arriving with aching shoulders. Lincoln High's imposing brick facade loomed ahead, its accessibility features grudgingly added after decades of lawsuits. The automatic door sensor flickered red, broken again. Danny positioned his chair at the optimal angle and threw his shoulder against the heavy glass, muscle memory guiding him through this familiar battle. The warning bell echoed through empty hallways as Danny finally breached the entrance. His wheelchair whispered across polished linoleum toward his locker, determination radiating from every purposeful movement. He had no way of knowing that across the crowded hallway, Brad Kowalski was watching him with the calculating stare of a predator sizing up prey. Brad Kowalski commanded his corner of Lincoln High's main hallway like a feudal lord surveying his domain. At 17, he possessed the kind of casual arrogance that came from a lifetime of getting everything he wanted. His dirty blonde hair caught the fluorescent lighting just right, and his sharp blue eyes scanned the morning crowd with bored superiority. Did you see Jennifer's face when you accidentally bumped her yesterday? Tony Ricci's voice carried the nasty edge of someone who collected cruelties like trophies. The wiry junior lounged against the lockers, his dark hair slicked back with too much gel, designer knockoffs broadcasting wealth he didn't actually possess. Mike Sterling, all 6'4" and 220 pounds of him, shifted uncomfortably. Maybe we should ease up on the freshman, he mumbled, his massive frame making him look older than his 17 years. The buzz-cut linebacker's conscience occasionally surfaced despite his loyalty to Brad. "Ease up." Brad's laugh held no warmth. "Mike, buddy, we're providing a public service. Teaching life lessons about the natural order." His expensive athletic wear marked him as school royalty, but the cruel twist of his mouth revealed something rotten beneath the golden boy exterior. The trio watched students hurry past with lowered eyes, their very presence creating ripples of fear through the hallway ecosystem. Underclassmen diverted around them like water flowing around stones. Teachers who should have intervened suddenly found fascinating things to examine in their coffee cups. Brad's perfect morning soured when he spotted his advanced chemistry grade posted outside Peterson's classroom, a generous C+ that his father's donations had probably influenced. College scouts demanded better. His football scholarship hung by increasingly thin threads, and the pressure from Frank Kowalski felt like a weight crushing his chest. "There's Professor Wheels," Tony nodded toward Danny's distant figure, acting like he owns the place with all his fancy awards and shit. Brad's jaw tightened as he watched Danny organize his locker with methodical precision. Every academic achievement Danny earned felt like a personal insult, a reminder of Brad's own intellectual limitations. The wheelchair kid made it look so easy: top grades, teacher respect, a bright future that Brad could only grasp through violence on a football field. Principal Morrison appeared like a summoned genie, her practiced smile radiating false warmth. "Brad, how's our star linebacker feeling about Friday's homecoming game?" She ignored the scattered papers and intimidated students in the group's wake, her selective blindness honed through years of protecting the football program. "Ready to dominate." "Mrs. Morrison," Brad replied with rehearsed charm, but his eyes remained fixed on Danny across the hallway. As the principal moved on, Brad's voice dropped to a threatening whisper. "Look at Professor Wheels over there, acting like he owns the place." A battered maintenance van pulled through Lincoln High's service entrance as the morning sun painted long shadows across the parking lot. The vehicle bore the scars of honest work: dented fenders, paint worn thin by weather and time, tools rattling. In the cargo area with each bump, the driver who emerged moved with an economy of motion that seemed almost choreographed. Medium height and compact build, the middle-aged Asian man wore standard custodial coveralls that couldn't quite disguise the fluid grace in his movements. His graying black hair was neat and practical, and his warm brown eyes took in everything. With startling intensity, "You must be Jack Chun," Pete Murphy called out, his gravelly voice echoing off concrete walls. The head custodian approached with the rolling gait of someone whose knees had seen too many decades of honest labor. "Welcome to Lincoln High, where the kids are lovely and the politics are hell." Jack, as he would be known here, nodded with humble respect. "Thank you for opportunity, Mr. Murphy. I'm ready to work hard." His accent was slight but noticeable, adding an authentic touch to his carefully constructed identity. The tour revealed Lincoln High's hidden geography: service corridors where real conversations happened, supply closets that doubled as discipline, chambers, and the complex social ecosystem that adults pretended not to see. Jack absorbed every detail with the focus of someone studying a battlefield. "Janitorial staff are invisible," Pete explained, unaware of the irony. "Kids walk past like we're furniture. Sometimes that's a blessing, sometimes it's a curse. You see things, fights, bullying, teachers who shouldn't be teaching. Most of us learn to keep our heads down." Jack's movements suggested capabilities far beyond his humble role. When a mop began to topple from his cart, he caught it without looking, fingers finding the handle with impossible precision. Students rushing to class flowed around him like he was part of the building's architecture, never imagining that this quiet maintenance worker possessed reflexes that had thrilled audiences worldwide. During lunch period, Jack wheeled his cart past the cafeteria's social battlefield. His trained eye cataloged the power structures with military precision. Brad's table dominating the center like a fortress, surrounding tables maintaining respectful distance. Outcasts relegated to the periphery. In a quiet corner sat Danny Martinez with Lucy Brennan, their heads bent over textbooks while they shared a simple meal. The contrast was stark: noise and intimidation versus quiet intelligence and genuine friendship. Something in Jack's expression shifted as he observed the dynamics. filing away important details about Lincoln High's unspoken hierarchies that as the lunch period ended, Jack's path coincidentally intersected with conversations, his enhanced hearing catching fragments of cruel laughter and whispered threats. The puzzle pieces of Lincoln High's social order arranged themselves in his mind with startling clarity. Advanced chemistry's fluorescent lights hummed overhead as Mr. Peterson distributed handouts with the enthusiasm of someone who genuinely loved teaching. Danny's eyes brightened as he scanned the announcement, his mind already racing with possibilities. The district science competition is in 3 weeks, Peterson announced, his voice carrying over the rustling papers. Winner receives a $5,000 scholarship and guaranteed admission to State University. I encourage all of you to participate. Danny's heart hammered against his ribs. $5,000 would change everything. Textbooks without. Choosing between meals, equipment for his research, maybe even helping Rosa reduce her crushing work schedule. His revolutionary ideas about adaptive neural interfaces could finally see daylight. 3 rows back, Brad Kowalski stared at the same announcement with growing dread. His latest chemistry test bore a red C that no amount of his father's influence could improve. The scholarship represented his only path to academic respectability, but competing against minds like Danny's felt like bringing a butter knife to a gunfight. After class, Danny's excitement bubbled over as he described his project. Concepts to Lucy. Imagine interfaces that respond to thought patterns, he whispered urgently, sketching diagrams in his notebook's margins. Adaptive technology that learns from the user's neural pathways. We could revolutionize how disabled individuals interact with the world. Brad lingered near the doorway, his enhanced hearing catching every word of Danny's passionate explanation. Each brilliant concept felt like a nail in the coffin of his own academic future. The wheelchair kid didn't just want to compete. He wanted to change the world, armed with intelligence that made Brad's own efforts look pathetic by comparison. The parking lot provided the perfect setting for Brad's growing paranoia to fester. Kelly Adams, resplendent in her cheerleader uniform, listened with practiced sympathy as her boyfriend vented his frustrations. That wheelchair kid is going to ruin everything, Brad muttered, his hands clenched into fists. Peterson loves him, the other teachers think he's some kind of genius, and now he's going after the one scholarship that could save my ass. Kelly's perfectly manicured fingers traced patterns on Brad's Letterman jacket. Maybe he won't be able to finish his project, she suggested with carefully calculated innocence. Science competitions are really demanding. Lots of things can go wrong. The suggestion hung in the air like poison gas, seeping into Brad's thoughts and taking root. His father's expectations, the pressure of maintaining his scholarship, the humiliation of losing to someone Frank Kowalski would dismiss as damaged goods. It all crystallized into a single, terrible clarity. As students climbed into cars and buses around them, Brad's mind began working on a different kind of problem. Danny Martinez had become more than academic competition. He'd become an existential threat that required elimination. The seeds of systematic harassment had been planted in fertile ground. Monday morning arrived with the subtle shift that indicated Danny's world had changed overnight. His usual parking space near the building's accessible entrance was blocked by Brad's gleaming pickup truck, forcing him to navigate to the far end of the lot, where broken asphalt made wheelchair travel treacherous. The extra distance meant arriving breathless and slightly late, his shoulders aching from the extended journey. Danny dismissed it as coincidence. After all, parking was first come, first served. But as the day progressed, a pattern emerged that felt anything but random. In the hallway between classes, Mike Sterling's massive frame accidentally collided with Danny's wheelchair, sending his carefully organized books scattering across the floor. The linebacker offered mumbled apologies while other students hurried past, unwilling to get involved in the awkward aftermath. During third period, Danny discovered his desk had been subtly sabotaged, the surface tilted at an angle that sent his papers sliding to the floor. When he pressed the elevator button for the science wing, the car arrived programmed for the wrong floors, forcing him to ride up and down while precious passing time evaporated. "This is getting ridiculous," Lucy whispered during lunch, helping Danny reorganize his scattered materials. Her green eyes flashed with protective anger as she surveyed the damage to his notebook. Someone stuffed gum in your locker mechanism. Your parking space keeps getting blocked, and now this. It's not coincidence. Danny's jaw tightened as he considered the escalating harassment. Each incident carried plausible deniability, making formal complaints seem paranoid. What am I supposed to tell Morrison? That I think someone's conducting psychological warfare against me. Across the cafeteria, Jackson emptied trash bins with methodical precision, but his alert eyes cataloged every interaction he'd witnessed. Mike's clumsy collision noted the suspicious timing of Danny's difficulties and recognized the classic pattern of systematic intimidation. After school, Danny struggled with his jammed locker while other students streamed toward freedom. Frustration mounted as the combination refused to work, his project materials trapped behind stubborn metal. Sometimes things get stuck, a gentle voice observed. Jack approached with quiet confidence, examining the lock mechanism with surprising expertise. His fingers worked with impossible precision, easily freeing the jammed mechanism. "Thank you," Danny said gratefully, not noticing how Jack's trained eye examined the gum residue. Evidence of deliberate sabotage. "There's always a way to fix," Jack replied simply, his warm smile masking calculating fury. Someone was targeting this brilliant young man, and that someone had just made a very dangerous enemy. 3 days of escalating harassment had taken their toll on Danny's usual optimism. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, and his normally perfect grades showed stress fractures. During lunch period, while Lucy attended band practice, he sat alone at their usual table, desperately trying to salvage his science project from the accumulated sabotage. His laptop screen displayed weeks of painstaking research, neural interface calculations that could revolutionize adaptive technology. The work represented not just academic achievement, but hope for millions of disabled individuals worldwide. Danny's fingers flew across the keyboard, racing against a deadline that seemed to shrink with each new act of harassment. Well, Professor Wheels." Brad's voice cut through the cafeteria's ambient noise like a blade. The three bullies approached with predatory confidence, their mere presence causing nearby students to suddenly find urgent business elsewhere. That Tony's sharp features twisted into a cruel smile. "Working hard on your little science fair project? That's so cute." His voice dripped with mock sympathy that felt more threatening than outright hostility. "Leave me alone," Danny said quietly, not looking up from his screen. His hands continued typing, but tension radiated from his shoulders like heat from a furnace. Brad leaned closer, his expensive cologne mixing with the cafeteria's institutional odors. "You know, Danny, some people are starting to think you're getting a little too big for your wheels." The deliberate cruelty of the pun drew snickers from his companions. Mike shifted uncomfortably, his conscience warring with loyalty. The massive linebacker had witnessed enough genuine cruelty to recognize the dangerous escalation in Brad's behavior, but years of following orders kept him silent. "Oops," Brad said with theatrical innocence as his elbow knocked Danny's water bottle across the table. The liquid cascaded over Danny's laptop keyboard, seeping into circuits that represented months of irreplaceable work. Danny's careful composure shattered. "You bastard." He lunged forward, frantically dabbing at the spreading water with paper napkins while his precious research flickered and died. "That was everything." "Careful there, Sparky." Tony laughed, his voice carrying across the suddenly silent cafeteria. "Don't want to short-circuit what's left of your brain." The joke pushed Danny past his breaking point. Despite his physical limitations, despite the audience of watching students, despite the obvious futility, he found his voice and his courage. "You're pathetic cowards hiding behind your daddy's money." Brad's face flushed crimson. No one, especially not some crippled kid, spoke to him like that in public. From across the cafeteria, Jackson watched through the serving window, his gentle expression transforming into something far more dangerous. The confrontation exploded into Lincoln High's outdoor courtyard, where autumn sun painted the concrete in deceptively peaceful patterns. A crowd of students formed an uncertain circle, drawn by the magnetic pull of potential violence, but afraid to get too close. Danny's wheelchair gleamed in the afternoon light as he faced his tormentors with newfound defiance. The destroyed laptop had been the final straw, weeks of brilliant research reduced to sparking circuits and blank screens. His dark eyes blazed with righteous fury that made his physical limitations irrelevant. "You think you're so tough?" Danny's voice carried across the courtyard with surprising strength. "Picking on someone in a wheelchair? That just proves how weak you really are." Brad's face contorted with rage at being challenged publicly. His carefully constructed image as school royalty cracked under the weight of a disabled kid's courage. The watching students' expressions shifted from fear to fascination. Nobody had ever seen Professor Wheels fight back. "Shut your mouth, freak," Brad snarled, his usual charm replaced by naked hostility. The mask had finally slipped, revealing the insecure bully beneath the golden boy exterior. Tony circled like a hyena, feeding off the tension. "Should have stayed quiet, wheelchair boy. Now you're going to learn some respect." Without warning, Brad lunged forward and grabbed Danny's wheelchair handles. The deliberate cruelty was breathtaking, using Danny's mobility device as a weapon against him. With calculated malice, Brad tipped the chair forward, sending Danny crashing hard onto the unforgiving concrete. The impact echoed across the courtyard like a gunshot. Danny's laptop bag exploded on contact, scattering papers and electronics across the pavement. His weeks of revolutionary research became confetti dancing in the autumn breeze. Danny lay sprawled on the concrete, scraped and humiliated, his chair overturned beside him like a fallen steed. The watching students stood frozen in shock. They'd witnessed bullying before, but never anything this savage, this deliberately cruel. Most students hurried away, unwilling to get involved or bear witness. A few offered awkward help, but their assistance felt contaminated by their earlier cowardice. The damage was done, not just to Danny's body, but to his spirit. From a maintenance window 50 yards away, Jack Chin observed everything with laser focus. His usual pleasant demeanor had vanished completely, replaced by the cold calculation of someone assessing targets and planning strategy. The bullies strutted away laughing, drunk on their demonstration of power. They had no idea they'd just committed an act of cruelty in front of someone who'd spent decades perfecting the art of justice. Darkness had settled over Lincoln High when Jackson finally locked the maintenance closet and headed for his van. His official duties were complete, but the real work was just beginning. The image of Danny Martinez sprawled on concrete burned in his mind like acid, demanding action that couldn't wait for morning. The abandoned parking lot behind Miller's Strip Mall had become Brad's unofficial headquarters, a place where stolen beer and borrowed arrogance flowed freely. The three bullies sat on their truck's tailgate, reliving their afternoon victory with increasingly exaggerated details. "Did you see his face when he hit the ground?" Tony's laughter echoed off empty storefronts, like a fish flopping around, trying to get back in his little wheelchair. Mike drained his beer with uncomfortable silence. Something about Danny's courage had stirred feelings the massive linebacker preferred to ignore. The kid had stood up to them despite impossible odds. That took guts Mike wasn't sure he possessed. Best part was all those students watching, Brad continued, his voice slurred with alcohol and satisfaction. "Now everyone knows what happens when you challenge me." They climbed into Brad's truck for the ride home, their celebration about to take a distinctly different turn. The engine cranked repeatedly but refused to catch. Spark plugs mysteriously loosened just enough to prevent ignition. "What the hell?" Brad popped the hood, revealing an engine that looked perfectly normal to his untrained eye. Every component appeared intact, but the truck remained stubbornly dead. As they waited for roadside assistance, the evening's small disasters multiplied. Mike stumbled over a trash can that hadn't been in his path moments earlier, landing face-first in week-old garbage. Tony's bike chain snapped precisely as he attempted an impressive wheelie for passing girls. Each incident seemed like random bad luck, but the timing felt orchestrated, as if someone was conducting a symphony of perfectly coordinated inconveniences. The message was subtle but unmistakable. Actions have consequences, and someone was watching. Miles away, Danny lay in his narrow bed, trying to reconstruct his destroyed research from memory. The physical bruises would heal, but the loss of his work felt devastating. Through his bedroom window, a shadow moved with impossible stealth through the alley. Someone checking his house's security, ensuring his safety. The figure vanished. When Danny tried to focus, leaving him wondering if exhaustion was playing tricks on his mind. But somewhere in the darkness, a guardian angel was preparing for war. Tuesday morning greeted Brad Kowalski with a mystery that would have impressed Sherlock Holmes. His locker combination, unchanged for 3 years, had somehow transformed overnight into an unsolvable puzzle. The office staff insisted no maintenance had been performed, yet his belongings remained sealed behind impenetrable metal. "Maybe you're just forgetting," suggested the secretary with barely concealed irritation. She dealt with entitled athletes before, and Brad's growing paranoia tested her patience. The day's mishaps cascaded like dominoes in a master's demonstration. Mike Sterling discovered his gym bag had vanished from the locker room, only to reappear hanging prominently in the girls' bathroom, earning him detention and the mockery of every female student at Lincoln High. During lunch, Tony Ricci attempted to impress Jennifer Walsh by sliding dramatically across what appeared to be a perfectly dry floor. His theatrical entrance became a slapstick catastrophe as his feet shot out from under him, sending his lunch exploding across the cafeteria in a spectacular display of marinara sauce and wounded pride. "This is getting weird," Mike muttered, examining a purple bruise blooming across his shoulder from his morning collision with mysteriously relocated equipment. "It's like someone's messing with us." Brad's paranoia reached fever pitch as he analyzed each incident. The timing was too perfect, the humiliation too precise. Someone was conducting psychological warfare against them, but every potential suspect seemed impossible. Teachers avoided them, students feared them, and the administration protected them. Jack Chan moved through the chaos like a ghost, his custodial cart seemingly equipped with exactly the right tools for each subtle sabotage. Students had begun noticing the quiet janitor's impeccable timing, but his humble demeanor deflected suspicion with practiced ease. "Excuse me," Jack said politely as he wheeled past Brad's group, mopping a floor that had been bone dry moments earlier. His warm smile contained depths that would have terrified them if they'd possessed the intelligence to recognize danger. Near Danny's locker, Jack performed his greatest magic trick, slipping a small flash drive labeled backup files into the metal cavity with movements too quick for observation. The gift would restore weeks of lost research, but its true value lay in the message it sent. Someone powerful was watching over Danny Martinez. The Bullies' confidence cracked like ice in spring thaw, but they didn't yet understand they were fighting an opponent who had turned warfare into art. That Danny's discovery of the mysterious flash drive felt like finding treasure in a wasteland. The device contained advanced coding frameworks that exceeded college-level complexity, algorithms that could revolutionize his neural interface project. He stared at the screen in wonder, unable to fathom who possessed such extraordinary knowledge. The chance encounters with Jack Chan began that afternoon. While mopping near Danny's locker, the humble janitor offered casual observations that revealed shocking depth. "Center of gravity very important," Jack mentioned, adjusting Danny's wheelchair position with subtle expertise. "Lower base, better stability. Also help with leverage in tight situations." Danny noticed how Jack's movements carried impossible grace. The way he caught falling objects without looking, stepped aside for running students with perfect timing, balanced on one foot while reaching impossible heights. This wasn't ordinary custodial work. This was poetry in motion. "You know a lot about physics," Danny observed during one of their brief conversations. Jack's explanation of momentum and angular velocity would have impressed university professors. "Learn many things in life," Jack replied with characteristic humility. "Work with hands teach about how things move, how force work." Very practical knowledge. Their discussions ranged from engineering principles to strategic thinking, each lesson disguised as casual conversation. Jack demonstrated positioning techniques that maximized Danny's stability and reach, shared insights about reading people's intentions through body language, and offered wisdom that seemed drawn from vast experience. "Confidence not about being biggest or strongest," Jack explained while demonstrating how wheelchair placement could control spatial dynamics. "Confidence about knowing your capabilities, understanding your environment, being ready for what comes next." Lucy observed these interactions with growing fascination. The quiet janitor possessed knowledge that seemed impossibly broad, moved with grace that suggested hidden training, and showed Danny respect that felt genuinely profound. "There's something different about him," she whispered to Danny after watching. Jack effortlessly prevent a collision between rushing students. The way he moves, the things he knows. It's like he's playing a completely different game than everyone else. Danny's posture had begun improving, his voice carrying new authority, his eyes showing determination that hadn't existed before the harassment began. Jack's lessons were transforming more than just physical positioning. They were rebuilding Danny's fundamental relationship with his own power. Across the parking lot, Brad watched these interactions with growing suspicion and rage, unaware that his enemy was hiding in plain sight. Principal Morrison's office reeked of administrative cowardice disguised as institutional necessity. Her practiced smile couldn't mask the tension radiating from her carefully pressed suit as she gestured for Jack to sit in the uncomfortable chair reserved for problem employees. "Your work has been exemplary," Morrison began, her tone carrying undertones of warning rather than praise. "Pete Murphy speaks very highly of your efficiency and attention to detail." Jack maintained perfect humility, his weathered hands folded respectfully in his lap. "Thank you, Mrs. Morrison. I try to do a good job, keep school clean and safe for students." "That's exactly what I wanted to discuss." Morrison's voice sharpened like a blade finding its target. "Your job description involves cleaning, maintenance, and staying invisible. It doesn't include involving yourself in student affairs or disciplinary matters." The threat hung in the air like smoke from a house fire. Morrison had received calls. Brad's recent string of accidents hadn't gone unnoticed by parents who measured their influence in campaign contributions and gymnasium dedications. "I not understand," Jack replied with perfect innocence. "I only clean floors, empty trash, fix broken things. Students barely notice me." Morrison leaned forward, her expensive glasses reflecting fluorescent lighting. "Frank Kowalski sits on our school board. His son Brad is our star linebacker, crucial to our football program and college recruitment efforts. Any interference with that program affects our entire district's reputation." The message was crystal clear. Brad Kowalski was untouchable, protected by networks of power that extended far beyond high school politics. Jack absorbed this information with the calm of someone cataloging enemy assets and strategic weaknesses. "I understand the importance of football program," Jack said carefully. "Young men need strong leadership, good role models. Very important for character development." Morrison's smile turned predatory. "I'm glad we understand each other." Temporary. Employees who create problems tend to find their positions very temporary indeed. After Jack left her office, Morrison dialed Frank Kowalski's private number. "We may have a problem with the new maintenance worker," she reported. "Nothing concrete, but he seems unusually observant. I thought you should know." Meanwhile, Jack made his own call from the privacy of his van. "I need complete background information on Frank Kowalski and Janet Morrison," he said quietly. "Financial records, political connections, anything that might be useful. This goes deeper than high school bullying." The corruption reached the very top, but Jack had faced worse odds than small-town politics and administrative cowardice. Frank Kowalski's arrival at Lincoln High created ripples of nervous energy that spread through the building like seismic waves. The construction magnate moved with the predatory confidence of someone accustomed to buying solutions to problems, his expensive suit and cold blue eyes broadcasting power that most people found intimidating. That he cornered Jack in the maintenance supply closet, his imposing frame filling the doorway like a threat made flesh. "I hear you've been taking special interest in my son's activities," Frank said, his voice carrying the smooth menace of someone skilled in corporate intimidation. Jack continued organizing cleaning supplies with methodical precision, seemingly unimpressed by the powerful man's presence. Sorry, Mr. Kowalski. I'm not sure what you mean. I just janitor, clean floors and empty trash." Frank's laugh held no warmth. "Don't play stupid with me. I've built an empire by reading people, and you're not as simple as you pretend. My son is destined for great things. Football scholarship, successful career, leadership roles. I won't allow some immigrant maintenance worker to interfere with his future." The racial slur hung in the air like poison gas, revealing Frank's true character beneath his polished exterior. Jack's response was a masterpiece of diplomatic warfare. Perfectly polite words delivered with quiet dignity that somehow made the powerful man feel small and foolish. "Mr. Kowalski, I have great respect for education and young people achieving success," Jack said calmly. Everyone deserves chance to reach full potential. Very American dream, yes? Frank's face flushed crimson as he realized his intimidation tactics were backfiring spectacularly. This humble janitor was conducting a psychological judo match, using Frank's own aggression against him without ever being overtly disrespectful. "You'd better stay in your lane," Frank snarled, his composure cracking. "I have connections that could make your life very difficult." After Frank stormed out, he called Brad with barely controlled fury. "Handle your problem more decisively," he commanded. "I don't care what it takes. That wheelchair kid and anyone helping him need to understand their place." The conversation removed Brad's last restraints on escalation. His father had essentially given him permission to wage war, not realizing he'd just signed his son's eventual destruction warrant. That afternoon, emboldened by paternal approval, Brad cornered Danny again. But this time, something had changed. Danny didn't back down or look away. Using techniques Jack had taught him about projecting strength, he met Brad's stare with unwavering confidence. "You finished?" Danny asked quietly, his voice carrying new authority that made Brad step backward involuntarily. Lucy Brennan sat cross-legged on her grandmother's threadbare carpet, supposedly helping with algebra homework, while classic action movies provided background noise. When Police Story flickered across the ancient television screen, she glanced up absently, then did a double-take that would have impressed cartoon animators. The face on screen belonged unmistakably to Lincoln High's humble janitor. Jackie Chan's younger features moved with the same impossible grace she'd observed in school hallways, the same quick reflexes, the same warm eyes that seemed to catalog everything while revealing nothing. "Holy shit," Lucy whispered, then glanced guiltily at her grandmother, who was mercifully absorbed in mathematical equations. Her laptop became a research portal as Lucy dove into Jackie Chan's filmography with the intensity of an investigative journalist. Promotional photos from recent movies confirmed her suspicions. The resemblance wasn't coincidental. Their quiet maintenance worker was one of the world's most famous action stars. That Wednesday's school day transformed into a covert surveillance operation. Lucy observed Jack Chan with new eyes, noting details that had previously seemed unremarkable. His impossible grace while navigating crowded hallways. The way students and obstacles seemed to part before him without conscious awareness. His precise timing that always placed him exactly where he needed to be. Every accident affecting the Bullies coincided with Jack's presence in the general area. Mike's gym bag disappearing while Jack cleaned nearby lockers. Tony's slip occurring moments after Jack had mopped that section of floor. Brad's locker problems starting the day after Jack had worked late. The pattern was undeniable once she knew what to look for. Their custodial guardian angel was conducting a psychological warfare campaign with the precision of someone who'd spent decades mastering the art of perfect timing. Lucy faced an ethical dilemma that would have challenged philosophy. Professors. Exposing Jackie Chan's secret could destroy whatever mission had brought him to Lincoln High. But Danny deserved to know the truth about his mysterious protector. She approached Danny after school with printouts that felt like classified documents. "I need to show you something about our janitor friend," she said urgently, her green eyes bright with discovery. Danny's initial disbelief crumbled as evidence mounted. The photos were undeniable, the behavioral patterns too consistent to ignore. Their humble maintenance worker was one of the most famous martial artists in cinematic history. "But why?" Danny whispered, staring at images of Jackie Chan in action. Sequences that made Hollywood magic seem real. Why would someone like that be mopping floors at Lincoln High? Lucy's smile held the satisfaction of a detective solving an impossible case. "Maybe we should ask him." Thursday morning found Danny positioning himself strategically along Jack's usual custodial route, his heart hammering with nervous anticipation. Armed with Lucy's evidence and burning with curiosity, he was determined to get answers from their mysterious protector. "Mr. Chun," Danny called softly as the janitor approached with his cart. "Could I talk to you for a minute?" Jack's warm smile faltered slightly, the first crack Danny had ever seen in his perfect composure. "Of course, young man. What I can help you with?" Danny spread Lucy's printouts across a nearby table like prosecutor presenting evidence. Promotional photos, movie stills, recent interviews, all featuring the unmistakable face of Lincoln High's humble maintenance worker. "I think you're Jackie Chan." Danny said quietly. Jack's carefully constructed cover story crumbled under the weight of incontrovertible evidence. For several moments, he examined the photos with the resigned expression of someone whose secret identity had been expertly unmasked. "Your friend, very good detective," Jack said finally, dropping the accent that had been part of his disguise. His voice carried the warm intelligence Danny had heard in countless film interviews. "Why?" Danny asked simply. "Why are you here, mopping floors and emptying trash cans?" Jackie's explanation revealed a depth that transcended mere celebrity philanthropy. A researching role about ordinary heroes, people who do extraordinary things without recognition or reward. Working-class heroes who make difference in small ways every day. The janitor job had been method acting taken to unprecedented extremes. Jackie wanted to understand the struggles of invisible workers, the dignity found in humble service, the quiet heroism that never made headlines. "But when I see what's happening to you," Jackie continued, his expression growing serious, "it become personal. I know what it like to be different, to be picked on for things you cannot control. Small kid, foreign accent, dreams bigger than people think you deserve." Danny felt tears threatening as Jackie described recognizing something of his younger self in Danny's situation. The harassment, the isolation, the determination to prove that being different didn't mean being less than. "You want to learn to defend yourself?" Jackie asked gently, not fighting for violence, fighting for confidence, for never accepting being victim. Danny's eager acceptance sealed a partnership that would change both their lives. They agreed to meet after school in the old gymnasium, where legends would share knowledge that couldn't be found in any textbook. "Remember," Jackie said with characteristic humility, "I may be famous, but you the one with real courage. Standing up to bullies when you have everything to lose, that true heroism." Lucy Brennan sat cross-legged on her grandmother's threadbare carpet, supposedly helping with algebra homework while classic action movies provided background noise. When Police Story flickered across the ancient television screen, she glanced up absently, then did a double-take that would have impressed cartoon animators. The face on screen belonged unmistakably to Lincoln High's humble janitor. Jackie Chan's younger features moved with the same impossible grace she'd observed in school hallways, the same quick reflexes, the same warm eyes that seemed to catalog everything while revealing nothing. "Holy shit," Lucy whispered, then glanced guiltily at her grandmother, who was mercifully absorbed in mathematical equations. Her laptop became a research portal as Lucy dove into Jackie Chan's filmography with the intensity of an investigative journalist. Promotional photos from recent movies confirmed her suspicions. The resemblance wasn't coincidental. Their quiet maintenance worker was one of the world's most famous action stars. That Wednesday's school day transformed into a covert surveillance operation. Lucy observed Jack Chan with new eyes, noting details that had previously seemed unremarkable. His impossible grace while navigating crowded hallways. The way students and obstacles seemed to part before him without conscious awareness. His precise timing that always placed him exactly where he needed to be. Every accident affecting the bullies coincided with Jack's presence in the general area. Mike's gym bag disappearing while Jack cleaned nearby lockers. Tony's slip occurring moments after Jack had mopped that section of floor. Brad's locker problems starting the day after Jack had worked late. The pattern was undeniable once she knew what to look for. Their custodial guardian angel was conducting a psychological warfare campaign with the precision of someone who'd spent decades mastering the art of perfect timing. Lucy faced an ethical dilemma that would have challenged philosophy professors. Exposing Jackie Chan's secret could destroy whatever mission had brought him to Lincoln High. But Danny deserved to know the truth about his mysterious protector. She approached Danny after school with printouts that felt like classified documents. "I need to show you something about our janitor friend," she said urgently, her green eyes bright with discovery. Danny's initial disbelief crumbled as evidence mounted. The photos were undeniable, the behavioral patterns too consistent to ignore. Their humble maintenance worker was one of the most famous martial artists in cinematic history. "But why?" Danny whispered, staring at images of Jackie Chan in action sequences that made Hollywood magic seem real. Thursday morning found Danny positioning himself strategically along Jack's usual custodial route, his heart hammering with nervous anticipation. Armed with Lucy's evidence and burning with curiosity, he was determined to get answers from their mysterious protector. Mr. Chun, Danny called softly as the janitor approached with his cart. Could I talk to you for a minute? Jack's warm smile faltered slightly, the first crack Danny had ever seen in his perfect composure. Of course, young man. What I can help you with? Danny spread Lucy's printouts across a nearby table like a prosecutor presenting evidence. Promotional photos, movie stills, recent interviews, all featuring the unmistakable face of Lincoln High's humble maintenance worker. I think you're Jackie Chan, Danny said quietly. Jack's carefully constructed cover story crumbled under the weight of incontrovertible evidence. For several moments, he examined the photos with the resigned expression of someone whose secret identity had been expertly unmasked. Your friend, very good detective, Jack said finally, dropping the accent that had been part of his disguise. His voice carried the warm intelligence Danny had heard in countless film interviews. Why? Danny asked simply. Why are you here, mopping floors and emptying trash cans? Jackie's explanation revealed a depth that transcended mere celebrity philanthropy. A researching role about ordinary heroes, people who do extraordinary things without recognition or reward. Working-class heroes who make difference in small ways every day. The janitor job had been method acting taken to unprecedented extremes. Jackie wanted to understand the struggles of invisible workers, the dignity found in humble service, the quiet heroism that never made headlines. But when I see what's happening to you, Jackie continued, his expression growing serious, it become personal. I know what it like to be different, to be picked on for things you cannot control. Small kid, foreign accent, dreams bigger than people think you deserve. Danny felt tears threatening as Jackie described recognizing something of his younger self in Danny's situation. The harassment, the isolation, the determination to prove that being different didn't mean being less than. You want to learn to defend yourself? Jackie asked gently, not fighting for violence, fighting for confidence, for never accepting being victim. Danny's eager acceptance sealed a partnership that would change both their lives. They agreed to meet after school in the old gymnasium, where legends would share knowledge that couldn't be found in any textbook. Remember, Jackie said with characteristic humility, I may be famous, but you the one with real courage. The old gymnasium smelled of decades of sweat and dreams deferred, its hardwood floors scarred by countless practices and forgotten victories. Dusty sunbeams filtered through high windows as Jackie led Danny to the center of the abandoned space, their footsteps echoing like whispers of athletic ghosts. First lesson, not about fighting, Jackie began, settling cross-legged on the floor. First lesson about breathing, about finding center. Strong mind makes strong body, but scared mind make everything weak. Danny closed his eyes and followed Jackie's guidance, learning to center his breathing and quiet the constant anxiety that had plagued him since the harassment began. The meditation felt foreign at first, but gradually his racing thoughts settled into peaceful focus. Now we work on position, Jackie continued, studying Danny's wheelchair with the analytical eye of someone who saw possibilities where others saw limitations. Your chair, not disability, is advantage. Lower center of gravity, metal framework, wheels for mobility. All weapons if you know how to use. The training sessions became a revelation of adapted martial arts principles. Jackie demonstrated how the wheelchair could serve as both shield and weapon, the metal frame deflecting attacks, the wheels providing rapid repositioning, the armrests offering leverage for unexpected counterstrikes. Most people see wheelchair and think helpless, Jackie explained while teaching Danny defensive positioning. Their assumptions become your advantage. They expect certain things, prepare for normal responses. You give them something completely different. Danny learned to use his upper body strength in ways he'd never imagined. Jackie showed him pressure points that could disable larger opponents, escape techniques that turned attempted grapples into opportunities for counterattack, and psychological tactics that projected confidence even in vulnerable situations. Between physical lessons, Jackie shared wisdom earned through decades of facing adversity. Real strength not about size or muscle, he said while demonstrating how proper leverage could overcome superior force. Real strength about never giving up, never accepting being victim, always believing you have choice. The training intensified. Over several after-school sessions, Danny's posture improved dramatically, his shoulders straightened with new confidence, his voice gained authority, his eyes showed determination that hadn't existed before. You ready for test? Jackie announced after Danny successfully executed a complex defensive sequence against multiple simulated attackers. But remember, best victory is one you never have to fight. Danny nodded, understanding the deeper wisdom. He was learning to project strength that would deter confrontation, but if confrontation came, he would be ready. The student had become a warrior. Friday's lunch period crackled with anticipation as Brad Kowalski led his crew across the cafeteria toward Danny's table. The quarterback's face carried the ugly determination of someone pushed beyond rational thought. His father's pressure, his academic failures, and Danny's growing confidence had created a perfect storm of wounded pride. Danny sat calmly eating his sandwich, Lucy beside him reviewing chemistry notes. When Brad's shadow fell across their table, Danny looked up with steady eyes that showed no trace of his former fear. Well, Professor Wheels, Brad sneered, his voice carrying across the suddenly silent cafeteria. Still think you're hot. Shit with your fancy science projects. Danny finished chewing thoughtfully before responding. Is there something you need, Brad? Because I have actual work to do. The casual dismissal hit Brad like a slap. In front of the entire school, the wheelchair kid was treating him like a minor annoyance. Tony and Mike flanked their leader, but something felt different. Danny's confidence radiated outward like heat from a forge. When Brad reached for Danny's lunch tray in his usual intimidation move, Danny smoothly blocked the motion with a technique that made Brad stumble backward into Mike's massive frame. The cafeteria erupted in surprised laughter as the star quarterback flailed for balance. Careful there, Danny said with polite concern. Wouldn't want you to hurt yourself before the big game. Brad's face flushed crimson with humiliation. You think you're funny, freak. I think I'm tired of your pathetic attempts at intimidation. Danny replied, his voice carrying new authority that silenced the watching crowd. Maybe try picking on someone who's actually afraid of you. I hear the kindergarten class is pretty tough this year. The verbal devastation was surgical in its precision. Danny had used Brad's own tactics against him. Public humiliation, cutting remarks about inadequacy, questioning his courage. But where Brad's attacks were cruel, Danny's were clever, exposing the bully's fundamental weakness without crossing into genuine cruelty. Mike shifted uncomfortably, his conscience finally overriding his loyalty. The massive linebacker had witnessed enough genuine courage to recognize it, and Danny's transformation commanded respect even from his former tormentors. Tony started forward menacingly, but Danny's steady gaze stopped him cold. There was something different in those dark eyes, a confidence that suggested hidden capabilities, like staring into still water and sensing dangerous depths beneath. The bullies retreated in unprecedented humiliation, their power structure crumbling under Danny's newfound strength. From the kitchen doorway, Jackie watched with proud satisfaction as his student claimed victory through courage rather than violence. But across the parking lot, Brad sat in his truck consumed with rage that had moved far beyond rational thought. Rosa Martinez kissed Danny goodbye at 11 p.m., her scrubs rustling as she gathered her keys for another exhausting night shift at the hospital. Lock the door behind me, Mijo, she whispered, unaware that three figures waited in the shadows beyond their quiet neighborhood. The house settled into peaceful silence broken only by Danny's fingers clicking across his rebuilt laptop keyboard. His science project glowed on the screen, revolutionary neural interface technology that could change millions of lives. He was so absorbed in calculations that he missed the soft scraping of the back door lock being picked that Brad's crew had planned. This operation with military precision. They knew Rosa's schedule, had scouted the house's vulnerabilities, and brought tools to ensure Danny couldn't escape or fight back. Mike carried zip ties, Tony brought spray paint for marking their territory, and Brad gripped a baseball bat. With white knuckles. Remember, Brad whispered as they crossed the threshold into Rosa's modest home. This isn't just about scaring him. We're going to destroy everything. His project, his confidence, his safe space. By tomorrow, Professor Wheels will know exactly where he belongs. They moved through the darkened house like wolves stalking prey, overturning furniture and spray painting. Obscenities on walls that Rosa had painted with such care. The systematic destruction was designed to send a message that nowhere was safe from their reach. Danny heard the first crash and froze, his blood turning to ice water as whispered voices and heavy footsteps announced that his worst nightmare had found him at home. Danny's hands shook as he reached for his phone, but the device showed no signal. Tony's borrowed jammer ensuring no outside help could reach them. Trapped in his upstairs bedroom with no easy escape route, Danny felt panic clawing at his throat like a living thing. The bullies' voices drifted up from below, their casual destruction of his home accompanied by cruel laughter and increasingly explicit threats about what they planned to do to him. Each crash of breaking glass felt like a physical blow to Danny's spirit. "Danny," Brad's voice echoed up the stairwell with mock friendliness. "We know you're up there, buddy. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. We just want to have a little chat about respect." Danny fought against the terror threatening to overwhelm him, drawing on Jackie's training to center his breathing and assess his tactical situation. His wheelchair limited escape options, but Jackie had taught him that every limitation could become an advantage with proper application. He positioned furniture to create obstacles, gathered improvised weapons within reach, and positioned his chair for maximum defensive capability. The bedroom became a fortress, carefully arranged according to principles Jackie had drilled into him during their training sessions. "Come on, Professor Wheels." Tony's voice carried genuine malice. "We came all this way to visit. It's rude to keep your guests waiting." The footsteps began climbing the stairs, slow, deliberate, savoring Danny's terror. 3 against 1 in his own home, with no help coming and nowhere to run. But Danny Martinez was no longer the frightened victim they remembered. Jackie's lessons had transformed him into something they weren't prepared to face. The bullies reached his bedroom door, unaware that a guardian angel was already moving through the darkness below. 3 against 1. Jackie's voice cut through the bedroom tension like a blade through silk. The bullies spun around to see the quiet janitor standing in the doorway, but this wasn't the humble maintenance worker they barely noticed at school. This was Jackie Chan in full protective fury, every muscle coiled for action, his eyes calculating distances and angles with predatory precision. The gentle custodian had vanished, replaced by something that radiated controlled lethality. "Get lost, old man," Brad snarled, raising his baseball bat with false bravado. "This isn't your business." Jackie's smile was terrifying in its gentleness. "When someone hurt my student, it become my business. You want to pick on someone in wheelchair? Try picking on someone who can fight back." The transformation was complete, humble janitor to legendary warrior in a single heartbeat. Jackie's stance shifted into perfect combat readiness, his hands loose and ready, his entire being focused on the 3 young predators who had made the fatal mistake of bringing violence into Danny's sanctuary. Brad swung the bat with desperate fury, but Jackie moved like smoke and wind. The weapon whistled harmlessly through empty air before sticking deep in the drywall, leaving Brad exposed and off balance. Mike lunged forward with his massive frame, expecting to overwhelm the smaller man through sheer size. Instead, he found himself redirected by forces he couldn't understand, his own momentum used against him with surgical precision. Tony pulled a knife, the situation escalating beyond teenage harassment into genuine violence. Jackie's expression didn't change, but something deadly stirred in his eyes. The epic confrontation was about to begin, and the bullies had no idea they were facing someone who had spent decades turning household combat into high art. The fight exploded through Danny's bedroom like a perfectly choreographed storm of controlled violence. Jackie became a force of nature, turning every mundane object into an instrument of justice with creativity that defied imagination. Brad's desk lamp became a blinding strobe that left Mike stumbling into walls. Tony's knife was neutralized by Danny's laptop charging cable, Jackie wrapping the cord around the blade with impossible precision before disarming the would-be attacker with a pressure point technique. The bedroom's narrow confines worked in Jackie's favor, limiting the bully's numerical advantage while providing an endless supply of improvised weapons. A textbook became a projectile that sent Tony crashing into the closet door. The vacuum cleaner transformed into both shield and battering ram. Jackie used Danny's wheelchair as a pivot point for aerial attacks that seemed to defy gravity. His movements flowed like water around obstacles, each technique serving multiple purposes, defending Danny, controlling the attackers, and positioning them for the next devastating combination. This is what happened when you pick on innocent people. Jackie said calmly while using a coat hanger to restrain Mike's massive arms. His voice remained conversational despite the chaos, each word a lesson in justice delivered through overwhelming force. The environmental combat reached artistic levels as Jackie improvised weapons from Danny's science project materials. Rubber bands became precision projectiles, a protractor served as an impromptu pressure point tool, and even a stress ball found tactical application. Within 3 minutes, all three bullies sat on the floor nursing bruises to their egos more than their bodies. Jackie wasn't even breathing hard, his decades of training making the encounter feel like a light warm-up exercise. Fighting easy part, Jackie told his defeated opponents with characteristic wisdom. Now come hard part, learning why you never, ever target innocent people again. Jackie forced the three bullies to clean every mess they'd made, working under his watchful supervision. Each broken item was cataloged, every spray-painted surface scrubbed until their fingers bled. They worked in sullen silence while Danny watched in amazement. Bullying comes from weakness, Jackie explained while they cleaned. Strong people protect others, not hurt them. He told them about his own experiences, about courage requiring protection of the vulnerable. The real punishment wasn't physical. It was wisdom that cut deeper than any blow. Mike began showing genuine remorse. Tony remained defiant but shaken. Brad struggled with his crumbling worldview. Jackie had recorded everything on his phone. When Rosa returned at 3 a.m. to find her house spotless and her son safe, the evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. The next morning, Jackie presented Principal Morrison with complete evidence: video footage, audio recordings, physical proof of the break-in and assault. Morrison could no longer ignore or cover up what happened. The story had gone viral overnight. International action star Jackie Chan stopping violent home invasion. Frank Kowalski's intimidation tactics crumbled against global celebrity status. In public scrutiny, Brad faced criminal charges for breaking and entering, assault, and destruction of property. All three bullies were suspended pending expulsion hearings. Their athletic eligibility was immediately revoked. Mike accepted responsibility and asked about counseling. Tony blamed everyone else, but his bravado was clearly broken. Brad oscillated between defiance and despair as his future collapsed. Local news interviewed Jackie at school, asking about his motivation. His humble response, "I just janitor who sees student need help," only increased public admiration and respect. 1 week later, Lincoln High had transformed completely. Students who were once afraid now reported bullying immediately. Teachers who previously ignored problems now intervened actively. The school's entire culture had shifted toward protection and respect. Danny became a symbol of resilience, his science project advancing to state level. The scholarship was just the beginning of opportunities opening up for him. Other students shared stories of being helped by the mysterious janitor who turned out to be Jackie Chan. Each story revealed quiet influence, stopping fights, encouraging struggling students, helping teachers through subtle suggestions. Mike was in counseling and community service, genuinely working to change. Tony transferred schools but struggled with his reputation following him. Brad faced the most serious consequences: criminal charges, ruined college prospects, his father's crushing disappointment. Jackie prepared to leave, his temporary assignment complete. Jackie's final day arrived with students and teachers organizing a farewell celebration. He deflected attention. "Real heroes are people like Danny. I just helped him find strength that was always there." Danny presented Jackie with a prototype adaptive device, a communication tool for disabled students to report bullying anonymously. Jackie was genuinely moved by the innovation and thoughtfulness. Greatest victory, not defeating enemies, is turning them into better people, Jackie shared in their final conversation. He'd arranged counseling for Mike, potential redemption even for Tony. Danny rolled through school hallways with confidence, respected by peers and teachers. His success inspired others, the cycle of protection continuing. As Jackie drove away, he watched Danny help a struggling underclassman. At his locker, Danny found Jackie's final note: "True strength comes from lifting others up, not putting them down. The real fight never finished, but you ready now." Brad watched Danny's presentation with something that might be respect, redemption's door remained open. If you liked the story, please watch another story on our channel and subscribe to the channel.